John D. Rockefeller's childhood was shaped by instability, deception, and uncertainty, but also discipline, structure, and an obsession with control. His father, William "Devil Bill" Rockefeller, was not just a con man, he was a master manipulator, promising fortunes, selling fake medicine, and vanishing for months, leaving his wife and children in financial distress. His mother, Eliza, didn't pity herself. She ran the household with strict financial discipline, teaching John self-reliance, thrift, and the power of structure. Rockefeller's childhood was a constant lesson. He understood that chaos is inevitable, order must be built. Emotion is a weakness, calculation is power. Money isn't just wealth, it's control. By the time he was a teenager, Rockefeller understood something most adults never grasp, and that is, stability isn't inherited, it's created. Before John D. Rockefeller built an empire, before he became the richest man modern history had ever seen, he was just a boy. A boy with a runaway father, an absent future, and only discipline to keep him alive. Rockefeller grew up in chaos, in uncertainty, but buried in that uncertainty was a lesson. Control isn't given, it's built. Most men inherit power. He built it, brick by brick, thought by thought, dollar by dollar. And by the time the world realized the mind behind Standard Oil, which was renamed Exxon in 1973 and ExxonMobil in 1999, which remains one of the largest public oil companies in the world. It was too late. He had already won. Before Rockefeller became the mastermind behind Standard Oil, he was a boy trapped in the world of a father who preyed on trust, a mother who struggled to hold the family together, and a household where financial security was an illusion. His father, William "Devil Bill" Rockefeller, was more than just a con man. He was a seductive fraud, pretending to be a doctor, selling fake cures, disappearing for months, then returning like a phantom to manipulate and take what he wanted. Rockefeller's mother, Eliza, endured endless uncertainty. She raised John with a doctrine of thrift and hard work, warning him against his father's deception. But for young John, watching the man who abandoned them win through manipulation was a paradoxon that shaped his ruthless approach to business years later. Rockefeller didn't panic. He didn't complain. He studied. He learned to control what he could, his behavior, his habits, his money. Because if he didn't, someone else like his father would. Every cent mattered. Every habit was deliberate. He didn't just want order, he needed it. This just showed that you don't need perfect circumstances, you need self-control and long-term discipline. John D. Rockefeller grew up in a world where uncertainty ruled. His father, Devil Bill, was gone more often than present. His mother, Eliza, carried the weight of raising their family alone, instilling in John an almost obsessive need for stability, self-reliance, and financial control. Unlike other boys his age, Rockefeller never had the luxury of aimless childhood wonder. Every cent mattered. Every decision had consequences. At 16, Rockefeller took his first job as a bookkeeper at Hewitt & Tuttley, small commodities firm in Cleveland. This was no ordinary entry-level job. Rockefeller treated it like a masterclass in financial warfare. This is where his ledger mindset was born, a philosophy that shaped every decision he would make for the rest of his life. He didn't just track numbers, studied them. Every dollar told a story, and every cent, when placed correctly, had power. Most kids his age dreamed of toys. Rockefeller dreamed of compound interest. While others spent, he saved. While others hoped, he calculated. Rockefeller knew one truth: money wasn't just currency, it was a tool. If used wisely, it could build empires. If wasted, it could destroy them. And he had no intention of being destroyed. And the lesson was to treat every dollar as a soldier. Money multiplies under discipline. By the time Rockefeller entered the oil industry in the 1860s, it was absolute chaos. The discovery of oil in Pennsylvania had triggered a wave of wild speculation, financial instability, and reckless competition. Hundreds of small oil companies were formed overnight. Most were desperate, erratic, rushing to refine crude oil without understanding economics, logistics, or long-term control. The market surged, collapsed, and surged again, ruining weak businessmen who mistook luck for strategy. This environment terrified weaker men. It empowered Rockefeller. While others panicked at market crashes, Rockefeller mastered patience, focus, and leveraged three weapons that turned him into the most dominant force in oil history. Rockefeller used silence as strategy to understanding weakness in competitors. Observing market chaos, Rockefeller watched the volatile oil industry tear itself apart. Prices fluctuated wildly, smaller companies overproduced crude oil, and inefficient refining methods wasted resources. Letting rivals panic, he studied how others reacted emotionally to price crashes. Instead of rushing to buy or sell like most businessmen, Rockefeller waited, letting competitors make costly mistakes. Identifying weak players, he analyzed the financial records of struggling oil firms. Those drowning in debt became future acquisition targets. Rockefeller was mentally mapping out the industry, identifying which companies would fail, and calculating exactly when to strike. He invested in efficiency, ensuring Standard Oil refined crude oil at the lowest possible cost, while others wasted money on outdated methods. Negotiating cheaper transport rates. Instead of expanding recklessly, he secured secret railroad discounts, reducing his costs significantly, while competitors unknowingly paid inflated prices. Standardizing oil quality. He made sure every barrel of oil from Standard Oil met strict consistency so buyers trusted his product over unreliable competitors. Rockefeller wasn't just surviving industry crashes, was engineering an unshakable foundation that would outlast market fluctuations. He was the master of the art of the quiet takeover, buying out competitors at their weakest. Waiting for market collapses. During oil price downturns, smaller companies panicked, selling assets cheaply just to stay alive. Making silent acquisitions. Rockefeller never bragged about buying out competitors. Instead, he quietly absorbed rival firms, often keeping their old branding to avoid public attention. Eliminating inefficiencies. Whenever he took over a company, he optimized its operations, making sure it aligned with Standard Oil's strict efficiency model. Rockefeller was slowly eliminating competition without direct conflict, transforming the industry into a single, controlled empire without people realizing what was happening. He was the master of monopoly tactics, controlling the entire supply chain. Instead of relying on external suppliers, he bought oil fields, owned transportation systems, and controlled refineries, ensuring every step of production was under his control. He pressured railroads to prioritize Standard Oil shipments, giving him a logistical advantage while competitors struggled with inconsistent transport. When necessary, he lowered his prices temporarily to force weaker competitors into financial ruin, then bought them out when they could no longer sustain operations. Rockefeller wasn't just competing, he was designing the market to work in his favor, ensuring Standard Oil became the only logical choice for consumers and industrial buyers. By the late 19th century, John D. Rockefeller wasn't just rich, was dominant. Standard Oil controlled over 90% of the U.S. oil market, making him one of the most powerful figures in American business history. But with dominance came enemies. Journalists, politicians, and rival businessmen framed Rockefeller as a ruthless monopolist, an industrial emperor who squeezed out competitors with cold precision. He was called the most hated man in America. Newspapers vilified him, government investigations targeted him, and public outrage swelled against his near-total control of oil. Most men would crumble under that level of hatred, but Rockefeller remained unmoved. He had spent his life learning that chaos is inevitable, but control is earned. Instead of fighting for popularity, Rockefeller focused on endurance. After decades of building Standard Oil into a global empire, John D. Rockefeller did something unexpected. He began giving away his fortune. By the time he retired, he was the richest man in modern history, with a net worth that, adjusted for inflation, would exceed $400 billion today. But Rockefeller had never seen wealth as the end goal. To him, money was a tool, not a trophy. He believed the true empire wasn't oil, it was mental resilience, structure, and long-term impact. Unlike many industrial tycoons who simply hoarded wealth, Rockefeller pioneered organized philanthropy, reshaping education, medicine, and scientific research in ways that still influence the world today. His vision for philanthropy wasn't just about giving money, it was about creating systems that endured beyond his own lifetime. Rockefeller knew one truth: money wasn't power, discipline was. Because wealth fades, systems endure. Lesson: true success is discipline applied over decades.